Hello. Today I wanted to talk about anxiety. Anxiety is something that affects a lot of us. Anxiety can be based on overactivity of our nervous system, excitability. Anxiety is the result of producing too much of a neurotransmitter called glutamate. If our body and brain is functioning properly, then we produce an enzyme that can then generate a component called GABA. GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter that balances out the production of glutamate. The interesting thing is if we do not produce enough GABA, then we become anxious. We become it's Glutamate is excitatory. Glutamate affects, well, arguably can affect just about everything. So if we can produce enough GABA, then we can balance out the functionality of our heart. We can balance our blood pressure, we can balance our heart rate, all from the brain, just by balancing out those two neurotransmitters, glutamate and GABA, which are derived from glutamate. And but also, if we produce proper amounts of GABA, then we can balance kidney function. We can balance liver function. We can we can do a lot just by balancing out those singular neurotransmitters, which all is derived from an enzyme production, which I find fascinating because it's kind of one of my theories I'm working on with neurodegenerative diseases. However, we'll get into that at a later time. So right now, we just want to talk about anxiety. I had a coworker about 20 years ago who had severe anxiety, which led him to have bleeding ulcers in his intestinal tract. And if anxiety has that much of an effect on the intestinal tract, and if we can actually neutralize the excitability in the brain, then arguably we can repair the intestinal tract based on that demonstration. And so, in order to reduce the excitatory effect of glutamate, we have to produce GABA. Well, what if we can't? What if we can't generate that enzyme that can produces GABA from glutamate? Well, there is a supplement called GABA that the science says is split 50-50. You cannot get GABA to the brain. Well, I've been experimenting with GABA, and we can get GABA to the brain because it has a tremendous effect, especially when we utilize it with our proprietary amino acid complex. It has a pretty significant effect on balancing out GABA or encouraging GABA to be produced in the brain. So what happens if we have too much GABA? Well, we also produce an enzyme that recirculates GABA back into glutamate. So nothing is really wasted. So that's a good thing. So yes, being able to produce proper amounts of GABA affects the heart, affects the blood pressure, affects the heart rate, affects kidney function, affects liver function. It affects dopamine production, and it also affects growth hormone production. There's a lot of science that supports if you can balance out the proper amount of GABA, we can actually maintain all the muscle we've had when we were younger. So as we age, we don't lose that muscle. We actually can maintain the muscle. It's the excitatory effect of glutamate which actually destroys the muscle. Yeah, it's all enzyme based, and it's all based on neurotransmitters. So we can do a lot just by balancing out GABA and glutamate. And so even if we can't produce that enzyme in the inhibitory effect of GABA, we can take a formula that we have called frayed nerves, and we're also adjusting our sleep formulas, and we're going to add GABA into our sleep formulas because now we know that it's actually critical function for us to live healthier, to live longer by being able to balance out the nervous system. And if GABA affects dopamine and growth hormone, then arguably we can start. This is how we start addressing neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's, like ALS, like cerebral palsy, like multiple sclerosis, and so many more things like neuropathy. what if this is a significant factor in being able to address these things? And if GABA supplement in itself does not pass, based on science, GABA does not pass through the blood-brain barrier very easily. Based on what I've found by experimenting on myself, if we utilize our amino acid complex with GABA, it passes through the blood-brain barrier very efficiently. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned. This will be unedited. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.